there is a concept with lurking, and this happens with any agent that you just have to lurk with, known as PP on the PP. And all that is play passive until pressure placed. Reason for that is you want your team to distract the enemies from your lurk, because think about it. So I'm gonna open up a Valorant quickly just to illustrate my points. So say that you are on Sunset and you are a defender, right? Say you're like hacking Clove or whatever, and you are on A right now, and you hear the enemies throwing the kitchen sink at B. We got KO knives, we got hacking jet dashes, we got the KJ turret, have a harbor wall, cove, whatever. They're throwing the kitchen sink on B. This Clove is not, at this point, this Clove isn't going to be thinking, oh, diddly darn, I should anchor top mid because there could be a Cypher lurking up and I'm going to get myself backstabbed. Clove isn't going to be thinking that. This Clove is going to be thinking, oh gosh, diddly darn, they're taking B, I got to rotate and I got to help my team. That is why you play passive until pressure placed. But imagine the opposite scenario. If I do this and I remove all of this and the round just started. So the round just started and your team is having no presence anywhere on main or on anything, right? So your team is sitting main, there's no utility, no presence, no nothing, and you are a Cypher right here. And this Clove is sitting right here. All this Clove is going to be thinking is, it's awfully quiet. I need to look out for lurks because they aren't pushing anywhere. That's what this Clove is going to be thinking at this point. Because there's no pressure being applied on opposite parts of the map, this defending Clove has absolutely no reason to rotate over and get themselves backstabbed by a lurk. There's absolutely no reason for this Clove to be worried. So that is why, when you are lurking, you need to start your lurk as soon as your team starts putting pressure on the opposite site so that you can catch your timing. Have you ever wanted to see this? But instead, you're just stuck looking at this. Hi, my name is Berate. I'm a Radiant coach, and if you want to get coached absolutely free of charge, join my Discord server, read the VOD submission rules, submit a VOD for me to review, and I will get to it as soon as I can and turn it into a video giving you detailed notes along the way. Enjoy the video. There's just one thing about this round, and this doesn't really matter on pistol round, but something that you definitely have to keep in mind is how important mid control is on Sunset. Mid control is very, very important on Sunset, and the reason for that is it denies them market control, which denies them one lane for them to retake. And if they can't split on a retake, and they all have to funnel through CT, retakes are dang near impossible for the defenders. So I like that you went with your team. I like that you camped B main, but I would have gone for a late mid lurk here, and that probably would have won you this round and stopped them from retaking so easily. But other than that, this is a pretty standard pistol round. And one thing that you just have to keep in mind is how important mid control is. But I'm hoping later on in this game you realize how important mid control is. But right now, the reason why you lost that round is because you didn't have mid control, and you gave the defenders a very easy time retaking that site. You need to start your lurk as soon as your team starts putting pressure on the opposite site so that you can catch your timing. And this is exactly what happens when you're too late on the lurk. You give the enemies time to group up and pick off your team. Stop. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to subscribe. Thanks. When you are too late on your lurk, you're putting your team in a 4 versus 5. And if you're too late on the lurk until you get over here to attack and hopefully get a bunch of kills, you're leaving your team up a creek. You don't want to lurk too early because you're going to get yourself killed by their side anchor, but you don't want to lurk too late or else this exact scenario is going to happen. And at that point, it's better to just go with your team and fight the numbers. Now, lurking on Cypher is extremely strong. Don't get me wrong here. Lurking on Cypher is definitely what you want to be doing, especially on maps like Sunset, where lurking and mid control is extremely important. but you need to get your timings down. So from now on, as soon as your team starts putting pressure on one site, that's when you need to start your lurk, because that's when you're going to catch your best timings, and that's when you'll actually be able to help your team, because right now you're kind of hurting your team. Now I know this is an eco, but you definitely could have. Yo, Zillion Man 001, thank you for the follow. But at this point, you've pretty much screwed your team. Now you got a kill here, that's good eco. You got rid of one of their guns, that's fine, but you definitely could have played this infinitely better if you would have sped up that lurk. And that's definitely the thing that I'm going to be looking for on attack, is your lurking. Because if you play Cypher, which I assume that you're a Cypher main, you have a lot of really, really good tech. So if I go here, yep, Cypher main. Absolutely beautiful. Lovely Cypher main. You have all the tech with your trips, but now you need to figure out how to actually play the character. So your tech is good. You have enough experience on the character, and you've studied enough so that you know what cams to place, what trips to place, what's good, what's bad. But now you need to figure out, now once your team has that utility to play off of, now you need to figure out what you're going to do personally to help you win games.
My bad, bro.
Good, yes, that's right.
Oh, ow, ow, ow.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. A Jet pushing the smoke there was a very bad play on the Jet, because it was a one and done. She gets one and she gets out. I like that the enemy Jet played aggro there, and there's really nothing you could do. So I'm not mad at you at that death, but I'm glad their team traded you. I see absolutely nothing wrong with that round. The only thing that I'd say is whenever there is a smoke and no one's holding the smoke, just hold the smoke to punish pushes, because there is always a non-zero chance whenever there's a random smoke that there's going to be an aggressive Jet player or a Reyna player going out trying to get one and dash out or just miss out. And if your team is watching other angles, and if you have numbers advantage, just say you have like a guy here watching this, you have a guy here watching elbow, you have another guy here watching CT, and then like you have your trip for flank, so you don't have to worry about that. The only possible angle that they could push out of now that's like a danger angle was that smoke. So probably if you would have realized that and you held the smoke, you probably would have gotten the kill there. But even then, it's unexpected. But just make sure that if there's a non-zero chance that they could push out of the smoke, definitely opt to hold the smoke instead of just double holding an angle with your team. Yeah, pros don't fake, I guess. Yeah, it was just unlucky that your Reyna decided to plant default. Your Reyna kind of trolled you there. But you could have definitely known that it was planted default. Okay, so when the spike is planted on default, the caveat with a default plant is you need to play on site whenever there's a default plant. And this is a pattern that I use. When the spike's planted open, you're allowed to play off site and you're allowed to play the extremities. But if the spike is planted on default or in a safe plant, you need and absolutely need to play on site, because the second they get site control, you lose. Even if it's a 1v1 and you want to play unpredictable, play somewhere on site. Don't play off site. Don't go for wrap plays. I make the same mistake when I clutch. I always try to be unpredictable when I clutch by like playing extremities when the spike's planted safe. But at the end of the day, the risk versus reward just isn't there. And they're more likely to just realize that the spike is planted safe and just stick the bomb and you lose the round than you ever having any chance of outplaying them. So it's really unfortunate, and it puts you at a massive disadvantage that the spike was planted safe. So there you are already at a disadvantage regardless of how the round played out. But you put yourself at an even larger disadvantage by playing off-site when the spike was planted safe. Good. Okay, you caught a rotator. That was good. But that was more on that Sage for making the mistake of rotating through spawn than you sitting there and being smart and waiting for it. Now, I like that you punished the mistake, but definitely what would have had the same effect and also would have helped your team a lot more is if you would have been pushing up top mid at that point. You would have caught the Sage with her knife out regardless. With the Phantom. Yeah. Whenever you have a Phantom and you know that someone's on the other side of a smoke, even if you're not guaranteed to get the kill, I would spam it. Just because they can't see your bullet tracers, just spamming the smoke with the Phantom for even the off chance that you get the free kill is there. And the fact that you're not taking that just means that you either don't realize that it's a possibility that you could get a kill, or you don't want to reveal your position. But at this point, they already know where you are, so take as many free kills as you can get. A little bit of a waste of an ult in my opinion, but Cypher's ult isn't super duper important. So it's fine if you waste that. You absolute rat. I love it. Yeah, a pattern that I see a lot with lurking that is very good, and I noticed that you're doing it, and I absolutely want you to keep it up, is you want to lurk every other round. One round you're with your team, the other round you're lurking. The reason for that, you're lurking enough to put enough pressure on the enemies to like be wary of their back and like put a bit of paranoia there, but you're not lurking so much that it becomes predictable as to where you're lurking, when you're lurking, and how you're lurking. So I like that you're doing this pattern. Absolutely keep doing this pattern. Just lurk every other round, or stagger it. Lurk 2 rounds, don't lurk 2 rounds, lurk 2 rounds, don't lurk 2 rounds, but don't lurk every round, but lurk more than 50% of the time. Like, you should be lurking at least 50% of the rounds you're on attack if you're playing like a sentinel like Cypher or Viper, or Deadlock. Killjoy's a little bit iffy with the lurks just because ranged utility. It's the same deal with Chamber, or even Omen. Since Omen has long range smokes, Astra's a phenomenal lurker. Any character with a lurk, you should be lurking at least 50% of the time. If you're lurking a little bit more than 50% of the time and you can get it off, that's good. But you definitely don't want to be lurking under 50% of the time. But you don't want to be lurking 100% of the time either. That's the main caveat. At this point in the game, you should have noticed that the enemies don't have a Cypher and that you should be spamming B right now, because Cypher is so essential on Sunset. If you have a Cypher on Sunset, there should be no reason why you lose defense. If you have a Cypher and they don't, it's kind of GG's, if you know what you're doing. And the fact that you lost this game means that you're doing something colossally wrong on defense, and that's definitely what I'm going to be focusing on this VOD. And actually, I'm down to just like skip ahead to defense right now, because right now your only problem is your lurk timings. That's it. And if you follow the PP on the PP rule, you'll absolutely be chilling on your lurks. So I'm going to switch to defense now, just for the sole reason that the fact that you lost this game means that you are doing something colossally wrong on defense. Yeah, at this point, I would have been sus of A. And I think this also just comes down to minimap awareness. So at this point in the round right now, so boom, right now, the thing that's running through my mind at this point, if I was in your shoes, if I was in this game, is they have a free rotate all the way to A right now. If they go A, they get a plant down absolutely for free. So there's something that I want you to do it. And this is something that I actually directly stole from Woohoojin again. And I know the Woohoojin clone allegations are going to come out again. I know. Just because we're both washed doesn't mean that we're the same. But there is a good concept on defense that you need to steal from Woohoojin here. And that is, don't break the chain. Think about it like this. If there's a piece of utility on the map and your players, you're going to draw a chain from each player to also piece of utility. Right there. And you're going to draw a chain from all of them like such. Boom. Now, if there is any point where an enemy can go without crossing any piece of that chain, that's a problem and that's a gap that needs to be filled. So right now, if you draw a chain from everyone here, you would see that they have a free rotate from B all the way to A. If I look at the start of this round and I make a chain out of the start of the round.
Oh yeah, B, B, B.
At the very, very start of the round, with your defensive setup, your chain is looking good. They can't cross into this half of the map without getting punished by some sort of utility. But if I look forward into this point of the round, okay, it's not switching to my mouse cursor. If I look forward into this point in the round, right here, sorry, right there, this is exactly the point where that chain gets broken. If you look at it, there's the chain here, and it's at this point in the round where they have their free rotate to A if they want. Omen would probably hear them, but he's very out of position and he's just going to get ran down if he tries to fight that. So your Omen's at a colossal disadvantage and that chain is essentially broken and they have a free rotate to A. And this is minimap awareness, and this is like you just looking at your minimap more, but a way to like a really good way to utilize minimap awareness. And if you're playing Sentinel, if you're playing Sentinel and Controller, you should be looking at your minimap a lot. And a good way to utilize that is by using this chain method. So anytime that this chain is broken, you should be fighting with either a piece of utility or you yourself to reconnect that chain. So at this point in the round right here, once we got a kill on B and we know that they are roughly spawn side, it's very reasonable to assume at this point they're rotating. Even slightly sooner, it's very reasonable to assume that they're rotating. And the fact that you're not like aware of the minimap here is absolutely a problem if you're going to be playing Sentinel. Because if you can lock down sight, that's your job done. If you're playing Cypher on Sunset, you need to know this one way. This one way right here is super simple to throw, but it's also single-handedly probably the best one way in the game in terms of Cypher one ways. You need to learn this one way up here. Like quite literally just Cypher, B, main, Sunset, one way. You look it up. Yeah. First video that pops up. Very simple lineup. You aim right there. Boom. There's the one way. Simple as that. First search on Google. Right there. Because a one-way cages with Cypher are very, very strong. Because a single cage like this is very easy to bypass. But a one-way is so much scarier, and it's just the placement. It's the exact same ability, but it turns your cage from a wimpy cage into a Giga Chad cage that no one's going to be pushing through because they're going to get their toes shot at.
No, not out.
And you also should have found a place to put that second trip somewhere. Like either put the trip from market or double trip on main, or throw a trip deeper in sight, or throw a trip to stop them from planting default, or throw a trip top mid to stop lurking. The fact that you have a second trip in your inventory right now is very indicative of a much larger problem. Your prep on defense isn't good. Now, I like that you're being creative with your trips. You're being very creative with the tripwires, and you're trying to be like intuitive with it, because you can say, oh, that's my setup. That's not the way that you want to think, especially with important utility like Cypher utility on defense on Sunset. You absolutely want to go and look at Radiant Cypher 1 tricks who actually know what they're doing and are Radiant and have been Radiant, and steal their setups. Like, one that's really good is I'm going to go on John QT, Cypher, Sunset, VOD. What I want you to do is I want you to go and I want you to study professional setups. And I want you to see what they do, when they do things, and how they do it, and then compare it to your own gameplay. Because right now you're trying to play completely improv, and you're playing this game completely by ear, and you're removing a lot of the value that this extremely strong kit has on this map just because your prep isn't there. Like, the second that you didn't know that one way, I immediately knew that your prep is lacking. You don't have enough prep on this map because you haven't watched enough professional players. You haven't watched enough professional players to have enough prep to hold down a site. Because by all means, if a Cypher is set up on B without using phenomenal amounts of utility, this site should be absolutely unpushable, and you want to force them to rotate to the opposite site. That's what you want to be doing with Cypher on Sunset on B, because if you're playing that character correctly, that site is unpushable without using some insane amounts of utility. Unless they quite literally cover every square inch of the site in a Molotov and a blind and a teleport, they should not be able to push your site successfully. Yep. You ruined it. Okay. No. Now, I like that you shot your cam. And you might be able to give your Gecko a tiny edge in the fight. But at the end of the day, this shooting them with your cam did more harm than good. Because right now, they absolutely saw your cam, and they know there's a cam there. And they're going to be looking for that camera. At this point, they don't know that the camera's there. There we go. At that point, until you shot them, they didn't know that the camera was there. And you're going to get a lot more value out of just leaving your camera there and having it like spoon feed you all the information that you need, rather than just shooting someone and getting your cam noticed for just the tiny chance that they'll be having to take 2 seconds to pull out they'll have to wait an extra 2 seconds to pull out a recon dart. Definitely here, what I would say is your main problem is minimap awareness on defense, lack of defensive prep. And also, on attack, you need to fix those lurk timings. But other than that, I think your Cypher gameplay is golden. Your aim is good, your gunfights are solid, your positioning is really good, but it's just that lack of prep that's really, really screwing you on defense.
Hey you, if you made it to the end of the video, make sure to subscribe to Berate, or I will take your Valorant elo.